Hello, everybody.
Hi! Who's excited to paint with Chris today?
Or is it Bob? Are we going to paint a masterpiece?
We're painting. Are you ready? Look at our happy little trees.
There's a little squirrel up here in a happy little tree.
It's Halloween. Are you guys excited? Okay, we have a costume contest today, so look for pictures later. Lindsay and I are a team.
Vote for us.
Vote
Yeah.
for us.
Vote for us. Okay.
I gotta go.
Here's Chris.
Bye.
Hello, everybody. Yes, we have a Halloween costume contest today, so be sure and vote for your favorite teacher. Costume. So our special guest today is Bob Ross, and AKA Lindsay Applegate, and she will be manning the questions. Welcome to Create with Chris. We are painting Edgar Allan Crow today, which is very appropriate for Halloween. So thank you for joining us, and we'll have a fun time today. We'll learn some new tips, tricks, and techniques to make your painting world a little bit easier and a lot more fun. For those of you that are joining later and watching the replay, welcome as well. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and flip cameras here. This is Edgar Allan Crow, and before we begin, I do want to remind everybody that we do have our live sale today. It is on the door hangers, and the prices are good now. This live sale starts at 1 p.m.?
Yeah, Jen and I will go live on 1 p.m.
Okay. Bob Ross and his masterpiece will go live at 1 p.m., and the prices are good until 1 p.m. tomorrow.
8 tomorrow.
8
we started at 8
tomorrow.
this morning. Yeah.
Okay. I need to read.
We
8
just do
a.m.
this to
this
confuse
morning
you.
until 8 a.m. tomorrow. So don't miss out on the door hangers. They are absolutely amazing. We have, do we have hundreds? We have a lot.
We have over 100 now, yeah.
Yeah, so there's so many to choose from. They're fun, they're easy to paint, and you can crank them out quickly and add these decorative touches, and they are absolutely amazing. Layered pieces, that is such a great trend right now. I absolutely love it. And I was thinking, let me put this together real quick, because even without adding the extra pieces, and you've probably played around if you have your pieces painted or prepped, just adding a little face on it. I mean, this is pretty cute as is. So for kids, for a quick and easy project, oh my goodness, you can really paint these up quickly. I love the idea that I don't have to trace each individual area. I can just paint the little neckerchief, and then when it's finished, I'll just put it in place. You don't have to worry about edges and straight lines. I think that is absolutely awesome. If you do have your pieces prepped and painted and are ready to paint with me, we're good to go. For those of you that are going to paint later, I did seal my pieces. These are MDF. I did seal them with multi-purpose sealer. And no, you don't have to, but when I seal them and I rub my finger over top, it's just a little bit of a nap to it. By sealing it, I can lightly sand it, and then I have a silky smooth surface to paint on. I think my number one concern is it's more gentle for your brushes. If you have old brushes that you're not too worried about how wear and tear, then that's probably an option you can skip. But my brushes last for years because I take good care of them, and I'm careful when I paint that I do have a nice smooth surface. It does make a difference. And you think about it, if you paint a lot over a period of time, it's going to the wear and tear on the brushes is going to add up. So the pieces are sealed and then base coated. So we're at that point where I think we're ready to go. Let's start with the background. I'm just going to set these other pieces aside. I wasn't sure, and the background was the last thing I did when I painted this. I wasn't sure what I wanted. I knew that I wanted the focus to be on all these little pieces in the foreground, but I didn't want a plain background. I didn't want a stencil background. I didn't want a detailed background. So I kind of played around the whole time I was painting in my mind what I was going to do to this. So to me, I wanted it to look like sky and maybe the indication of a field or landscape in the background. This is a really fun background technique, and I think if you can see I'm going to zoom in just a little bit closer. Let's go the other way then. This is not solid. It's not splotchy, but I don't know if you can see the brush strokes in it. That's okay, because the technique that I'm doing is going to use that kind of a uneven background to enhance the overall end effect. I'm going to start out using my 3/4 inch oval wash. And this is a brush I absolutely fell in love with. It's super soft. It almost feels like a makeup brush. But what I have found out, it does not leave bristle marks. And you don't have to spend a lot of time blending it out. I'm going to start with Whispering Turquoise and Colonial Blue. And then we're going to go into Foliage Green. I'm sorry, Hauser Light Green. Foliage green may be on the chopping block, so I'm trying to stay away from that just a little bit. And I'm just putting a little squirt on my palette of each, and I'll just put them in the order that go this way. I'm going to be applying the paint. And for the sake of time, we're going to hop around a little bit, because we don't want to sit here and wait for everything to dry. I have my brush. I'm just going to lightly dampen it. I have it in the water, and then I'm just going to lay it on the paper towel and get heavy paint off. It's still pretty soaky wet. And I'm going to load up my brush with Whispering Turquoise. Now, hang on, because this is going to be fast. I want to go from light turquoise, going into a little bit of that Colonial Blue in the middle just to mute it and soften it, and then down into the Hauser Light Green. Now, to make this flow, I have to paint rather quickly because I don't want it to tack up mid-technique here. So there's a couple things you can do. If you have a distress sprayer, you can mist the surface with that. And this sprayer is a little bit different than a sprayer you pick up at Walmart. It's a mist. It just comes out super fine. I always say a sprayer goes shh, but the mister goes phew. So it's just a very fine mist. It's a wonderful way to add just a soft hint of water. Another medium that is great is the fast dry glazing medium. And this also will allow more open time, but it dries more quickly than regular glazing medium. So I'm starting out with Whispering Turquoise, and I have a big brush so I can travel across the area quickly. And I'm using the side of my brush, not the tip. I'm not just going back and forth. I'm laying it in very quickly. And just a little more water so I can spread it out. And when I go across like this, I don't have any brush marks. If I stay on the tip, I'm getting brush marks. Picked up a little bit of Colonial Blue, and you think, ooh, that's a lot. Just gonna get a little water in my brush and just kind of blend that together softly, softly, softly. Okay. And then I'm just gonna go into that Hauser Light Green and walk it up and down. And where they meet in the middle, just going to go back over that very quickly. It's not dry yet. Oh my goodness, you see brush marks. That's okay. Going back up. Be careful when you go from the bottom up, you'll get green up in the sky. Okay, I know that looks pretty awful, but I'm going to leave it because 2 coats will turn it from this into a really nice soft blend. Can you see where we're going with this? So let's just set that aside. We'll come back to it in a minute and give it a second coat. While we're waiting on that to dry, we're going to start working on these pieces. And that's what's so nice about these layered pieces, because I can jump from one to the other very quickly. While one is drying, I can work on the others. If you have any questions, please pop them in the chat. Lindsay is answering everything, and if she has a question that she can't address, she'll let me know. The base coat on the hat is sable brown, and we are going to work with a little bit of light cinnamon, which I don't have, Lindsay. I'm sorry.
It's on my palette, but it's dry.
Oh, okay. She has her Bob Ross palette that she put little paint spots on. We're using light cinnamon, and we're going to use just a little bit of soft black and light mocha. So we're going to just kind of create that light and dark. Usually I start with the dark, but she's running to get my light cinnamon. I thought I grabbed everything, but and I'm loading the toe of my 1/2 inch awesome angle. If you are not familiar with my line of brushes, the length on the angles is just a little bit longer than a traditional angle, and will give longer brush strokes. And I think that once you load your brush and it's just perfect, if you have a longer brush stroke, you're going to get a more perfect stroke longer. Does that make sense? All right, so I'm into the light cinnamon. Just going to pull this across. This is darker. I'm going to turn this light on, see if we can brighten that up. And I'm just going to float that right across the top of that hat band. All right, so this little guy is a scarecrow, and his hat has been out in the weather, so I am just kind of chopping that in and pulling it out so I get not a smooth float, but just kind of a choppy blend. There's no rough edges because I still have quite a bit of clean area on my brush that I can use to pull that stroke out, chop it in, and just use that clean area to float it out. And while that is drying, we have a lot of time we can kind of move around quickly. I'm going to let that dry and jump over to the hat band. It is base coated with colonial blue, and I'm using this is a number 2. I think I'll go with a dark midnight blue here, and I want to create a stripe. And I do believe that when we paint, we spend a lot of time fussing over areas that are not that big of a deal, and so I encourage you with this little tiny stripe not to stress over it. Okay, here's a couple things. When I'm going to pull it from the top down, the bottom edge does not show, and the left side you might be able to peek in and see a little bit of the left side. So give yourself some grace and just start pulling that down. I've loaded it well. I have a fair amount of water in my brush. There we go. And I'm just going to pull it down, pull it down, pull it down. Just like that. Don't be fussy and let it go. That's good. I am going to hit this with a little bit of quick dry heat. If you don't have one of these heated dryers, oh my gosh, they are fantastic. They're quiet and they're very efficient. They dry super quickly. Going back to light mocha. I'm going to brighten up the top of this hat, give it a little bit of a hit of sunshine. And again, I'm just kind of chopping that in. If you don't like the way that looks, just get a mop and kind of mop it out. You'll still get that really nice highlight on there. And do the same thing across the top of the brim. Just scoot that across there just to add a hint of highlight. A little bit of paint makes a big difference. I think that's my motto. It just truly does not take a lot of fussy painting to create some really awesome effects. Well, I'm here. I'm going to go ahead with the hair. Told you I was going to jump around a lot. I've got a little bit of banana cream. And I wanted the hair to look like straw. So while this is drying, I'm just going to take, and I'm going kind of a back and forth, kind of a zigzag. Create that look of straw. Again, this is not fussy. This is just a fun piece. We're going to create this very quickly and not worry too much about how all the details are midstream, because the finishing touches are what is really going to make a big difference on this. Going back to that hat, trying to fill in my dry time with a little bit of painting time. This is soft black, and this is going to really bring that depth of shading into the hat. Soft black is a very strong color, so I'm loading the toe of my 1/2 inch awesome angle, and I just really want to sharpen that edge up right above the hat band. And you can see I'm taking a little bit more time with this because I know this will show. So I can pull that in and really deepen that. Look how nice and sharp that has become. Same thing here, right under the edge of the brim where the hair is going to meet. I can sharpen that up a little bit here in the top and on this side. And you can see now all that shading has created a really nice effect. Just for fun. And if you're looking for an amazing liner, my Epic Script liner is a little bit longer than a liner, a little bit shorter than a script, so you have excellent control. We're loading it well with a little bit of light mocha, and I just want to pull a few lines in just to give that look of weaving. And I did put one in the middle, but after I put it on there, I found out the sunflower covered it up. So the hat is finished, and I think our hat band is dry, so I can go back with this, add just a little bit of shading across the bottom. I'm still using my 1/2 inch angle. I love the control of the 1/2 inch angle because it covers quickly, and I can get a really nice float with that. And because I don't want to forget where I'm at, and I know I'll forget to go back, I'm going to add a highlight. Give that a quick dry. Using the right brush makes a world of difference. So if you are struggling with painting, A lot of times I've been to the point, I think, good grief, what is wrong with me? I cannot get this to look good. And I stop and look at my brush, and my bristles are a hot mess. Time to either reshape or get a new brush. Right here, let's just add a, what would you say, Lindsay? A happy little highlight?
Happy little highlight.
That's right. Perfect. Going back into light cinnamon. And I'm going to put a little bit of a, I'm using the toe of my brush just to pull that down. So I float across, very lightly float across, and then just stay on the chisel edge, pull that down, pull it down. Look how nice that looks. I've done hardly anything to create that really amazing look of straw. Don't paint harder, paint smarter. Loading my Epic script liner with a little bit of light mocha, and I'm just going to pull some highlights up into, whoops, almost got off camera on that. Just pull some little bits of highlight on there. Now, if these are not strong enough, I can always go back and add more. I'm gonna let it dry. I can sit here and fuss with it, or I can let it dry and then go back later and finish it up. So I love to work on these pieces and say, ooh, that's done, and that's done. So we're finished with the hat band. I do think I want a little stronger highlight right here. And the hair. So I'm going to set that to the side. Let's work on the sunflower next. I've got the banana cream out. I'm just going to go around the tips with my, I'm still using my 1/2 inch angle. Just going to highlight those tips with a little bit of that banana cream. And how many of you struggle with hanging onto a small piece? Okay, that's what your stylus is for. So you can just take that. Just want to brighten that up. I'm not really doing anything too fussy with it right now. I found out the stylus is amazing for hanging on to those little pieces while they're being painted. We'll let that dry. Now the sunflower is going to sit on his hat, and I decided it needed some pretty little leaves behind it, and I can paint them on, but I've got this really not I don't know if you're familiar with the painter's tools that I designed, but these are different templates. They're just absolutely amazing for painting things quickly. So I'm just going to add a couple leaves on here. We could add dimensional leaves, but this is so easy. And I can trace it, or I can just pop this thing on here and just stencil it in. And I'm using my spectacular stencil brush, loading it up with a little bit of Hauser Light Green. And I don't want it to bleed under the edges, so I'm just wiping it off on a paper towel to get rid of that excess paint. And need to be careful I don't get it on that edge. So I'm just using the other one to kind of mask that off. I could use painter's tape, but you know, this is so easy just to grab another template and put that on there. And get that quick dry. Tracing the line drawing on is not hard. So using a template to add that. It just seems like a no-brainer. And I think I got it right in that little area. And I did. I should have been a little more careful. Just wipe that off. So I have my leaves on there. It's going to be perfect. So we'll let those dry. Go back to the sunflower. And I'm going to use the same concept. And I'm going to pick a flower center. Just going to go with this one is the Bubble Buddy. And I'm painting the center of that with a little bit of sable brown. And I'm loading my brush. I want to get that nice sharp edge. Okay, perfect. I have a terrible time with circles, so these painter's tools are just absolutely a godsend. Are my leaves dry? I am going to bump down to a 1/4 inch awesome angle to add a little bit of shading around my sunflower petals. I have a little bit of light cinnamon, and I'm just going to float it right around the center. Doing the same thing kind of that I did with the straw on the hair, just pulling some of that up into the flower tips or the flower petals. This is just a little float of light cinnamon. And I can float and then pull it up, pull it up, pull it up. Get a really nice float plus a little bit of veining all in one fell swoop. I think too, when the painting hasn't been fussed over, it looks a little more relaxed and flows a little bit easier. I think it just creates a more continuity. And I kind of went back and forth on this. I can go back with a little bit of, I picked up some light mocha. I don't know if you can see. Just pull a little bit of highlights in there. And I can do this with a liner, but I've got the angle brush in my hand, and a lot of times it's just really nice to work with what's right here. And we'll just let that set up for a while. Going back with a little bit of light cinnamon to make this flower center, and I'm tapping this around. Sunflower centers are not all smooth and even, so I can just tap this around. Maybe if I use the stylus, you'll be able to see a little bit better. Right around the edges. Just kind of chopping that in. I want that center to be a little brighter. These edges to be a little darker. And then I will go back and reinforce that with a little more darkness. We'll let it set aside for now. I'm going to work on these leaves. Told you I was going to hop around a little bit. And going in with Hauser Dark Green, just add a little bit of shading on those leaves. Anybody going to Halloween parties today? Trick or treat? I don't know what all's going on.
Trick or treat's not tonight in Urbana.
Oh, it is not tonight in Urbana.
It is.
Oh,
It
okay.
is, yeah, and it's gonna be cold.
It's so cold out. Oh my goodness. We had frost everywhere. I saw some places had snow. just floating around the outer edge and a little bit down that base. Again, most of this is not going to show.
On that, could you use plantation pine?
Yes, plantation pine, Hauser dark green. Actually, I am using plantation pine.
That's what you said in the instructions.
Okay. I'm working on a project. I'm kind of excited about it. Lindsay and Jen encouraged me to come up with this project, so it went from a little comment to kind of a big deal. So keep an eye out. I'm hoping next week I'll be able to announce that. But I used a lot of Hauser
Yeah.
dark green in that. So
Are you gonna announce it in song?
yeah, it's a project based on a song, and honest to goodness, the whole time I've been painting, this song has run through my mind over and over and over. And I was telling Lindsay, she said, "Can you not show it without singing it?" And I said, "No, not really." So she was showing Jen one of the pieces, and guess what? She was singing it. I said, "See, it's not easy." Celery shoot. Love it. It's just a nice bright color. Add a pop of sunshine on these leaves. Really brighten that up.
Mary Jane says that she taped all her little pieces with double stick tape to a piece of cardboard to hold them down.
That is an excellent suggestion. But I have trouble with tape, so tape and I are not friends. Lindsay knows that.
Tape, glue,
Yeah,
anything adhesive.
I'm not a sticky person. Okay. So I want these leaves to lift off a little bit from the background, so I'm just going to take a little bit of soft black. This is what I call my transparent shadow. And I can just actually do like a little drop shadow behind that. And it will look like it's lifted off just a teeny bit. Once I start adding my shading in, I'm thinking, oh, maybe I should add a little more here. You know, you can always go back and touch up here and touch up there. A lot of times I end up doing that because as you do one little section at a time, you don't really notice if it's bright enough or dark enough, or you need more contrast, more separation. And with these separate pieces, it's until you get it all together, it's hard to tell. So this is really a great way to, once you start getting all the pieces in, to really start to build that all at once. While I'm at it, I've got that dark color. Going to shade around my little sunflower center. A lot of water, a little bit of paint. Really moves it around very quickly. Starts to build that up. If I want to add a hint of color, I can go back with a little bit of heritage brick, bring some color into that sunflower. Gonna let this set for a while. We're gonna go on. Let's do his little face because he looks like he needs, what color was on there? I always like to have a painting buddy that I can sit here and talk to. The face area can be done a couple ways. I could paint it light and shade it dark, or I could paint it dark and bring a little highlight in the middle. And I am loading my Spectacular stencil brush with a little bit of light mocha. And I'm just going to dry brush the center. Kind of do an X very lightly, and it starts to build. And as it starts to build, then I can increase my pressure just to let that brighten very, very lightly on its own. And wow, that is super dry. I'm just going to pick up a little bit of light cinnamon and just bring a little bit of shading around the outer edge. Super easy way to add that shading in there very quickly. Now, one thing I have found out with these pieces, when I put this hat brim over it, it kind of creates an automatic shadow. So I don't shade below the hat brim because it has that height from the pieces and it just automatically shades there. I am going to grab just a little bit of graphite paper. Need to get my eye placement. So I'm going to line his little face up. All right there. And the only thing I need are the eyes. And I'm just going to make a dot right in the middle of each. And that doesn't look like it's in the center of his face. So I'm going to move it over just a touch. I always have a pencil here and I don't have a pencil today. I'm going to use a pen. I'm just going to be using my Painter's Pal for the eyes. Oh my gosh, I'm telling you what, this has to be the best tool in the world. I'm going to use soft black. Just going to put a little eye in there. I made one dot in the center, and that's how I'm lining my template up. So all I have to do is go back and find that dot, put it right in the center. I don't have to worry about outside lines. And I just get my eyes in there perfect. I'm going to erase that little graphite line right there. So while that is drying, I'm going to put a second coat on, but in the meantime, shade around his eyes just a little bit with some light cinnamon. A little bit. If you get too much, he starts to look very weary and a little bit unhealthy. So I'm just going to float a little bit of that around there. Give those eyes enough time to dry. Pop in a second nice dark eyes. You can swirl or tap. If I want a really solid opaque, I will tap with my stencil brush. This is super soft bristles. They're really, really nice to work with. Let that dry a little bit. I'm going to his nose. Just going to bring some shading and highlighting in the nose. It was kind of funny when I did the nose. I wasn't really sure whether I want to put stripes or anything or just leave it plain. But I thought this should be kind of fun, so I'm going to float just a teeny bit of Heritage Brick. Okay. Mary Jane, I need your double stick tape here. Just a little bit of Heritage Brick on that side. And a touch of tangerine on the other. Just to brighten it up a bit. And then I thought it would be fun to add tangerine dip dots on there. I like the whimsy of it. Actually, I'm going to use that one to dip dot with because my little dots are not. Okay, there's his little nose. And I'm getting ready to go back to his face. The cheeks are a very soft blush of Heritage Brick. Actually, I'm going to go with the Warm Sunset. I think I tried Heritage Brick to begin with, and it was very dark. I wanted them just a little bit brighter. Using my stencil brush, and when I do cheeks, I always do them at the same time. And that way they're both identical. Build them up together. Kind of do an X shape, and then after I get the color starts to build, then I can swirl a little bit to build them up. And that way they both build up at the same intensity. Let's go back to those little eyes. Just a hint of Whispering Turquoise. Add a little bit of a float in the eyes. Super, super quick and easy. And don't forget that little sparkle. I use my stylus. And we have Snow White. I'm just going to put it down there and pull it up. Get a little teeny tiny comma stroke. Add a little dot and a smaller one. Get that little sparkle in there. Don't forget his little eyelashes, eyebrows. Spend a lot of time shaking paint up. Make sure your paint is well mixed because you don't want to have that gel in there. Now, I need to put his mouth on there, and I want to make sure I put it in the right spot. Just a little more water. If your brush does not flow, paint does not flow well off of your brush, you don't have enough moisture on there. I wasn't really happy.
Oh, he's a happy little scarecrow.
Just like that. He'll be happier when he gets his hat and his little hair on there, won't he? This is my favorite part, adding all the pieces. Oh, look at that. Let's brighten up this sunflower. Just gonna add some dip dots around the outer edge. My paint is a little bit thick on the palette here, so see if I can get away with that. Nope. You know when your paint's too thick. It doesn't even dip dot. And I just put this on kind of randomly because I don't want it the same everywhere. So I'm bouncing around with the size of dots. I I think that just adds a little more whimsy. It adds a little more, just a little more flow and a little bit of life to it. Alrighty, so we've got that little sunflower. Just need to do his scarf and his little clothes. We're getting kind of close here. Just think how much we've done so far. We've got the little hat finished. I'm afraid I'm going to get in his cheeks. I should have been a little more careful when I dotted his cheeks and had his hat brim on there. I would have lowered him just a touch, so keep that in mind. All right, let's do this scarf. This is super easy and quick. And I think while we're doing that, we'll do the pumpkin as well, because these both use the same colors. Now, you can trace on the, go with this, all of the detail for the scarf. But honestly, because this is such a fun piece, I'm just going to use my brush to create all of the different elements of the scarf. So I know I've got a knot right here. So I'm just floating that knot on there. And out of that knot, we've got these gathered little tails. So I'm just going to float around that knot and then pull it down with my toe of my brush. My paint's still wet, so I can manipulate that paint for quite a while to get it where I really want it.
Is that heritage brick you're
This
using?
is heritage brick, yes. And for this, we've got some rows here. Let your brush do all that work. My goodness. Okay, that's just about it on that. All we have to do is add our highlights and voila, that is pretty much finished. I think I'll put just a little more down here at the bottom. So let your brush do all the work. Just so easy. Same thing on the pumpkin. I know I've got a valley here. Got one here. Let that brush just really create those sections so easily. You've got these amazing tools. Let them do all the work. Now my highlight comes from the right side, so I am going to run just a little bit of a shade down this left side on the pumpkin. I love to paint pumpkins. I think they're so pretty. And straighten that up. Oh my goodness. Just a few strokes of floating and shading, and boom, we have all of that created. The stems, don't work too hard on the stems either. That is toffee. I'm just going to take a little bit of light cinnamon, and I'm using the toe of my brush. I know the base is going to be stronger, and just pull that up just like that. Don't make it difficult. Super, super easy. While we're working on that and letting that dry, going back to my 1/2 inch angle, I'm going to pull some shading with plantation pine on the leaf. And I know I have a center vein, and I'm just going to shade that outer edge, and then I'm just pulling it down. So what happens if I don't like the way this is going? I can just let it dry and redo it. It's not a big deal. And this is going to take a couple layers of paint. I honestly think a little bit of paint makes such a big difference that you don't need to fuss over putting it on and laying it in and all of that. Going back with tangerine on the pumpkin and the scarf. add a few highlights on this. Just the opposite. I'm going to start on the tips and pull it in. Start on the tips, staying on the chisel edge and just pulling it in. But wow, look already. I just think it's magical what you can create so very quickly. Just a few little highlights, not much. Just stroke it on and walk away. I will go back and add more, but don't work so very incredibly hard on this. I'm gonna hop back to that leaf and highlight this side just a little bit with, and I did bump down to the 1/4 inch angle. Kind of struggled a little bit with some of that detail because I had a big bulky brush. I always go with a big brush, and if I have trouble, then I'll bump it down. On the pumpkin, I'm just going to dry brush some highlights in there. This is tangerine. And I've just sparsely loaded my stencil brush. There we go. A little bit of paint makes a big difference. Not gonna take much. Just let those highlights shine just a little bit. I'm going to go back. I did bring
Your oval dry brush that Bob stole. Here.
oh, did Bob took
Bob
my
stole it.
brush. Bad Bob. I knew it's here somewhere. Okay, this is banana cream, and I've got my number 10 oval dry brush. Just really want to beef up those highlights. And that leaf's going to cover most of these up. But wow, just look at that. How cool is that? I mean, just that easy. Same thing on the scarf. I'll just grab a little bit banana cream. Whoa, a little bit. Paint makes a big difference. And it's so easy to move that paint around. If you have enough moisture on your brush, it's just not a big deal at all. Just like that. How easy is that? I am going to add some dip dots on that, but I think it'll be easier if I put my highlights in before I do that. I think I want to put just a little bit. I love adding color. Let's add a little bit of tangerine on that leaf. Just pull some of that color in. Gonna strengthen that shading. Here on the bottom. Make sure the leaf blends well. And by that I mean I don't make it look like it's two sections. I'm going to pull some that plantation pine up in that light area just so it looks like the tip of that leaf has turned just a tiny bit. Little touches of paint. Go back to this stem. You got all that great shading on that. Just enhancing it with some soft black. Just a touch, but look what a difference that makes. Oh my goodness, it's getting there very quickly. Let's add some highlights on this little scarf. Now I could go with yellow, but I think I'm going to ramp it up with a little bit of a brighter color. just adds that drama with a brighter highlight. If you can't move the paint around, the brush is too dry. And I'm using a light mocha just to really, I think that adds a little bit of drama. I like that. With brighter highlights, you have to be careful. If you get too many bright highlights, then it all starts to look the same. So I'm just going to pick and choose where I put my highlights. To me, the light is kind of like bouncing down through here. And I can put, it helps just to define those areas. And I'm just going to add a few little tiny clusters of dip dots. Okay, my paint was too dry, so I added some water, and then it was too thin, so. The moral of the story is get a fresh puddle of paint. And these, I just wanted these kind of random, I didn't work them into the folds. I just wanted to randomly add some brightness on this little scarf. I think it dresses it up really nicely. I wanted it to kind of look like the old-fashioned red and white neckerchiefs. And just make sure that it doesn't become too much all the same. I have 3 in a line that kind of bother me a little bit, so I'm breaking these up just a touch. All right, I think we're getting there quickly. This little guy does not look good without his poor little nose. I think I'm going on this. While I'm into that light mocha, just gonna pick up a little bit on my script liner. Pull some highlights down just to brighten that stem up. Let's go back down here to his shirt. Stripes, everybody loves to do stripes. Just adding a little bit of a plaid on his shirt. Alrighty, so this is whimsical, doesn't have to be perfect. So if you have a brush that is loaded correctly, you should be able to paint quite a few lines before you have to reload. If you struggle with long, slender lines, your brush is not loaded correctly. Now, to do the stripes that go across, start at the bottom. That way you know they're going to end up where you want them to end up. And I will let you know, I wanted this to be straight across, so I kind of broke my rule there. Pay attention to where the pattern ends. On this one, I should have brought that up just a little bit more because it needed, I wanted to remember to do that. It needed some more. I thought, oh, this scarf will cover it up, but it did not. So pay attention to where the pieces do overlap so you don't end up missing some of those. Have empty spots. Let's do these little jeans up real quick, the little bibs. And I am using Deep Midnight Blue. I'm down to the bottom of my paint in the bottle, and it's should turn it upside down, that way
You
it'll
need
come
a
in.
bottle.
No, I'm still good. We always squeeze until there's absolutely nothing left but air in the bottle. Going to add some shading on these straps. Deep midnight blue. These are blue jeans. They are, this one has a little bit of a, you can see where it comes down and buttons into the bibs. So I wanted to create just a little bit of a roundness there. And I'm going to pull it over just a little bit. Same thing on here. I just want to go down, scoot it down this left side of the strap. Shading and highlighting, this is how everything comes together. Think of my whispering turquoise. Oh, I have to do the background yet too. Just want to brighten that up with a little bit of that whispering turquoise. This is just a real simple shade and highlight to create the jeans or the bib overalls. I may have to get more turquoise. It's just not cooperating. There we go. And to shade his shirt, make sure it is dry before you shade. A little bit of light cinnamon. Just going to go down each strap, across the bottom. I'm using my 1/2 inch angle. I may have to bump down to a smaller one, but I love the way that it quickly covers with a nice float of paint. Let's see what we can do here. Gives me a lot more continuity if I can use the same brush. Everybody has a brush they're most comfortable with. Mine is the 1/2 inch angle. And I am going to bump down to a 1/4 inch angle to float that front placket. Just going right down the center here. And because I want that to really stand out, I'm going to highlight the other side with a little bit of white, and that just makes that divide look like it's not the same. And even add a little bit of highlight over here, and I'm using white for this. While I'm at it, I'm just going to brighten that up a little bit. This is why it's nice to work in one whole section as opposed to just doing one little thing and moving on to the next. Add a couple little buttons here, and these will take some time to dry, so hopefully we'll be able to get those dry before we stick our fingers in it. This is his little shirt button, and I'm not going to make the same mistake. I'm going to put his scarf on, and then I'll put his button right there. Now, because I want it to dry rather quickly, I'm going to go in and lift out some of that excess paint with the handle end of my brush and clean it off. It will also reduce that dome Do the same thing. I want the buttons on his jeans to be just a little bit bigger, so I'm using a different, larger brush handle. Again, I'm just going to go in and lift that excess paint out of the center. All right, I think all these pieces, we're going to set them aside, get this little bird done. Just using a bit of Whispering Turquoise. I have marigold on my hand. Get a little bit of shading on this bird. Not a whole lot you can do with a black bird, but we'll put a little bit of Whispering Turquoise on there. And that little teeny tiny wing. I'm gonna float some Whispering Turquoise along the bottom of that. And I'm just going to go in with some white. And kind of add a bit of highlight on these tail feathers and across the top of his back and his wing. He definitely needs something to break up all that black dark pieces on him. His beak is marigold. I'm just going to shade it with a bit of light cinnamon. Add a touch of white on the top. Banana cream, something to brighten that up. The eye is Snow White. I want a bigger eye. There we go. I'll do the same thing. I'm just going to go back in and lift out that excess paint. All right, and we need to go back to this background that we started earlier. Remember, we slip-slapped it on. It looks absolutely awful. Just going to repeat that same process, but with this second layer of paint, it will really pull those areas together nicely. And I just need fresh puddles of paint because that has all become a little tacky. The brush is pretty wet, but it's not drippy. Loading my paint onto the brush. Staying on, when I paint, I'm using the side of the brush, not the chisel. I'm just laying it down flat, kind of an X shape. I'm going to pull it down, pick up a little bit of that colonial blue, work it up. Wipe it excess off, blend these two together, pick up that Hauser dark green or light green, I have a mat at home and it doesn't scoot around. This tabletop's kind of slippery. And it doesn't matter if the blue goes down into the green, but you don't want that green coming up into the blue. Gonna Let this dry just a little bit, starting to tack up on me. You can see how much smoother it is, but I still want to soften. I like the bottom, still want to soften that top area just a little bit. Just going to go back with a little bit of Whispering Turquoise and blend that down. I picked up a little bit of Plantation Pine just to darken that a teensy weensy bit. There we go, that's what I want. I just want that soft blend from light to dark. It's super easy to go back and play with this a little bit, but don't overwork it. I think so many times the time spent tweaking and fussing ends up becoming a frustration. Dot that eye, but I want a little bit of that white to show. And add a teeny weeny little highlight speckle. Last thing, and I was going to use my Epic Script Liner and Snow White to line the stitches on the jeans, but I'm going to just do it kind of quickly with the Uniball white pen. If you've not used a white Uniball pen, oh my gosh, they are wonderful. They are opaque, it flows on very smoothly, has a nice even line. The only thing you have to remember is that the pen will reactivate with ink, with moisture. So you do have to keep that in mind when you varnish. Do not brush varnish. Just spray it with I use that Americana satin spray. Excuse me, the satin spray. It puts a really nice seal coat on, then you can brush varnish over it. This little guy desperately needs his nose before he looks anything but goofy. All right, I think this dries very quickly. Got a little bit of fussy work to do. I need to shade. A little bit around this button with light cinnamon. And I can highlight that button just a little bit. Put a little highlight on this button. Little shade. This is the little stuff that just takes a minute. Add all these little details that make a difference. I need a little float of a light or a dark midnight green, midnight blue. Around that button just to shade it. I should have done that before I put the stitches on there. Going to add just a couple little black buttonholes. When that dries, I'll just put a tiny little white thread across it. Okay, Mr. Scarecrow. And these are so much fun because they can be personalized. And I lost his little cheek. When I glued that hat on there, I lost one of those little dots, so I'm just readjusting. So easy to do. This looks super good. We'll put this little guy here. When you glue your pieces on, make sure that they line up with the edges. Check your edges. If your edges have paint on them, it's a very simple little float around the edge. I use my finger to put that little bit of paint on there to clean the edges up. I like that it sticks over the edge a little bit on the bird. You can put him anywhere you want. I thought he would be cute raised up a little bit, and then you could put little feet on him, splatter the background, stamp the background, stencil the background. Just so many different directions that this can be taken. I think he turned out adorable. If you have any questions, let me know. We went through this very quickly, but that's one of the bonuses of painting the layered pieces is that they can be painted up super quickly. I think from beginning to end, it's been an hour and 15 minutes. I talked a lot and we had a lot of dry time. So if you slow down and take your time, you could very easily do this in about 2 hours, super easy. Add a little more fussy detail. I thought adding some curls would be cute. I tried to do that. There's not a whole lot of room. I thought maybe just one on the pumpkin or maybe one up the background would be adorable. Okay, so do we have, I feel like I'm forgetting something, Lindsay.
You gonna talk about Mortimer, the next class?
Oh, yeah, thank you. I knew I was forgetting something. 2 weeks from today, same place, same time, I am doing Mortimer. And there we go. Mortimer is another layered piece, but he is just simply adorable. And he can be done up very quickly. I think he's going to be another piece that we're going to see a lot of around Christmas time because he would make super quick gifts. And it's just, he's a nice size for an ornament on a wreath. There's so many different things that can be done with him. Change the color. I thought it would be kind of cute. You could personalize it. Just would make a really nice gift. My latest pattern is the Christmas twists, and I had so much fun with these. This is the gingerbread, the penguin, and the elf. And a few years ago, I did a Santa, a snowman, and a reindeer. So you get all 6 of them. You'd have a nice little set for a tree or whatever. But I thought these turned out really cute. Remember, this afternoon, we have a live at 1 o'clock. The sale is good now. So if you want to go online, click the button for the live sale. You'll see everything that is currently on sale. Great deal. Buy 2, get 1 free.
Don't forget the coupon code. There is
yeah.
a coupon code.
Hanger 1031. Don't forget that. It's good until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. November 1st. I can't believe it's November already. 8 a.m. Oh, and FYI, every order of $25 or more right now, you get a free Menta brush.
While supplies last.
So, good deal. You get a free plaque and a free brush. You can't get better than that. Oh, don't forget to vote for your favorite costume.
It will be up after the live, after we're done here.
After the live, we're going to post the pictures. Don't forget your favorite Dorothy teacher. And remember my guest artist, Bob Ross, and his masterpiece, Jenny Sue. So, Thank you for joining me today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Remember, a little bit of paint makes a big difference. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.